Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. Of course, my name is Bryce, and I am joined with my friend and my partner in crime, Paula. Before we get into it, let me just go ahead and show you guys. Make sure, if you haven't already, Paula has just opened up a YouTube channel. And so if you are really passionate about any type of woo-woo stuff or healing, the mystical arts of healing, then please make sure that you are subscribed to Paula's channel because she puts up a lot of great meditations, and we're going to get more into it today, you guys. We did a part one a couple weeks ago, and now we're here for part two. So Paula, how you doing this evening for you, this morning for me? How you doing?
Good, thank you. Good. It's been a good day. And this time we're baby free, so we're not going to get interrupted.
You know, and we kind of want to talk more about that. I actually got a lot of comments, Paula. I don't know if you saw the comments on our last episode about mothers and
Mhm.
taking on this spiritual journey when you are a mom. And I don't know if I've told you this or not, Paula. I forget who I've told this to. In the Ashtanga Yoga series, we have 6 different physical series that you work through, 6. Well, the 7th series, we always say home life is 7th series. So there was kind of a joke that Patabi Joyce would say you have to finish all 6 series before you can have kids because that will keep you sane. But the point is that 7th series always trumps the first 6. So when there is a family emergency, that comes first. That's your
Yeah.
yoga, right? And
Mhm.
I don't know, I'm not a parent myself, but I can imagine that having kids is definitely joyous, but also challenging at the same time.
Yeah, definitely challenging, but it's just one of those things that it's just so worth it. It's just
Yeah.
so worth I believe that kids, I totally believe that we choose our parents and we choose each other. And kids really know how to push their parents' buttons, and they just know what to do to just bring up everything that you have not healed. So anything that you have not healed within yourself, yeah, they'll bring it up for you to, and it's up to you whether you want to deal with it or whether you want to just suppress it and keep plodding along, which is what so many of us do because we're so busy all the time. With the way society's set up, we're working and we're trying to fit everything in. And mums aren't just expected to just be mums at home anymore. Like, I was so lucky with my girls. I was able to stay home for quite a few years with them. And then I went on, I was actually a teacher's assistant for a little while, working with special needs kids and everything. And that was really great. And I've done accounting work and stuff like that as well. But it's just, yeah, really, they just really push you to just really bring up stuff. And so much of my spiritual journey has just been, thankfully, because of my kids, actually, because they've just brought up so much in me. And I'm just like, yep, okay, I want to deal with this. I want to work on this.
Well, there's also in India, they also say your mother is your first guru. So the mother
Mhm.
is the first guru for all of us, and a guru is a master teacher. So whether you have a good relationship with your mother or not, that's the first master teacher lesson you have is the mother. And so that's such an important role of being a mom. It's interesting, Paula. You talk about the whole like having a job and versus being a housewife or a stay-at-home mom type of thing. And I definitely I see both sides of it. But I was listening to Mormon stories yesterday when I was doing some cleaning, and they were doing an episode on polygamy. And they were interviewing in this panel. There's a channel called Growing Up in Polygamy where the wife it grew up mainstream Mormon, and the husband actually grew up in the fundamentalist Mormon sect where he had like 4 moms. And they both left Mormonism at this point, but she was talking about the idea of being a housewife. It was interesting. She said this because they were talking about the woman, the traditional roles of a female versus a male. And I'm paraphrasing what the wife said. And she said, I am a stay-at-home mom. My job is to make sure my children are safe and happy and they're functioning. As far as the other household chores, that's between my partner and me. And I love that she said that because she said, as a mom, my first job isn't to do the dishes and to vacuum the rug. It's to make sure that my children are healthy and happy and that their well-being is intact. That's my primary job. The vacuuming the dishes, my husband and I share that job. And I thought how insightful that was, that a lot of stay-at-home moms focus so much on keeping the house clean, but literally it's keeping your children and the well-being of your children and working through things with your children, which then of course project back to you. You're right, stuff that you need to work through as well, because family karma is real, right? Family karma is
Yeah,
absolutely real.
absolutely. Yeah,
So
but I just feel like there's just no time in our society put aside for that, because there's just so much pressure to just get everything done. So unless you kind of a little bit of a weirdo like me who likes to spend their spare time listening to podcasts and reading spiritual books, not everybody makes the time to do it. I think for me, I just have always been there's always a solution. And in fact, like, I love Wayne Dyer to bits. He helped, like, his work helped me a lot through some really challenging times in my life. And he actually had this talk called "There is a Spiritual Solution for Every Problem." And I've probably listened to that like 100 times. And it's just so good, because there's just so much in it. And it's just, there is always a solution. And I think whatever challenges came up for the girls and for me and for my partner at the time and stuff, I was just so determined to find an answer. I think also along the way, I did learn that I did go outside for answers a lot, looking at books and everything. And then I think slowly I just started to realize that you can't keep going out there all the time. You've got to go inwards and kind of deal with things by looking within. Yeah, which is another thing that we're not taught in society. So
yeah. Well, it's funny. As you guys know, Paula and I are doing our Esoteric Academy right now, and we'll talk more about that later on. But there is I was just telling you, Paula, that I'm almost finished with another course that we're about to put up. I've got 2 more episodes to film and edit, and then it'll be complete and we'll be up on our, and I'm working a lot with a lot of Ram Dass, and Ram Dass actually worked with Wayne Dyer as well. And
yeah, they did.
we have if you guys go to my Rumble channel, I have one of the episodes from the Bhagavad Gita course called Jnana Yoga that's up for people to listen to see if you want to join the academy. But Jnana Yoga and what you're talking about, this is exactly what this is, Paula. It's so fascinating, where Jnana Yoga is the intellect, is talking about the yoga, is talking about the theory. And basically, you study the theory so much that eventually you get rid of the theory and just practice. You go inside. So that's what you're talking about, which is amazing. And one thing too, in the course I'm working on now with some of Ram Dass's work, and I want your perspective on this, Paula. He talks a lot about parenthood and the karma of being a parent and these roles that we play in our lives of mother, daughter, sister, wife, friend. All of these are just illusionary titles anyway. They're just part of the ride in this life. And he talks about the hardest with that is being a parent. Is like, how do you be 100% mom and invest in your child, but also be unattached to being that? And when I say unattached, I don't mean
no, I know exactly what you mean. And that's so challenging, and that's something I struggle with, because it's like, they're your child and you care about them and you love them so much. And of course, you're responsible for them. I read a lot of parenting books over the years, because I just wanted to be a perfect parent. And I realized you can't be a perfect parent. You've just got to be you. But one parenting book I read, it was something about it was just this brilliant line in it saying that you're responsible for them, but you're not responsible to them, or something along those lines, where basically he was saying that it's your job is to take care of them, but you can't control them. They're their own individual person. And that has definitely been a challenge. But I think maybe, I don't know if it's because I'm a Pisces, I'm generally pretty easygoing. But sorry, I'm just going to pause for a second. Oh, God.
I love it. I love it.
The joys of parenting. Yeah, I remember because I commented on your YouTube video when you said that, and I was just laughing because I was just like, "That is my girls to a T."
That's the
So
sibling
funny.
relationship. That's another, well, I guess you guys, like, I just cut out a little pop there, but I think that was God having a sense of humor because as we're talking about Paula being a mom, she had to go be a mom.
Yeah,
So, so,
and they were trying to kill each other. No, no,
no,
not literally.
we're laughing about the whole meme, like with and that's another karmic relationship, guys, not just parents, but siblings. I mean, the
Oh
sibling
my goodness.
relationship is so, especially when they're like 100%, like, and I consider siblings, I consider half sibling. I don't like this whole full sibling, half sibling nonsense. I think if
Mhm.
you're a sister, if you share at least one parent, your brother, like your
Yeah,
sibling. And
yeah.
but when you have the same, but when you do have the same mom and dad, it brings even more karma because you are both. And how weird, siblings are weird because you literally share the exact same DNA pool
Yeah,
from the
but
same
so
uterus,
different.
but you are two totally different beings. But you literally, we were laughing because, yeah, that meme, like, I will absolutely give you my kidney, but don't you touch my phone charger. And I love it. Paul, I saw a story once where this girl was like recounting like her Thanksgiving. This was a grown up, or 20s, a girl, and she was like, said she had overheard her like 57-year-old father tell her, 59-year-old aunt, shh, don't tell mom, don't tell mom. And she was like, so just so you guys know, it never ends. Like,
Yeah,
here my
right.
parents are, my dad and his sister, my aunt, are in their late 50s, and her grandmother's obviously still alive, and they're still keeping secrets from at 50.
Wow.
So she's like, just so you know, guys, as with sibling relationship, that doesn't end. Like, I will
Yeah.
keep my sister's secrets. I will take her secrets to the death, but don't use my phone charger. And
Yeah.
I remember, Paula, when my oldest nephew, was a baby or a toddler. And I lived in a little apartment in Buckhead, and there was a train. The MARTA would go behind which is our like subway, would go behind my apartment, and so we would go outside. He loved trains at that point, so he'd come over and like watch the trains. But you know what I would do, Paula? He loved raisins, and so I would give him raisins as a snack, like an hour before he would go back home with my sister. And sure enough, later that afternoon, I would get a text or a call from my sister because he would have had a big blowout in his diaper from the raisins, and she'd be like, "What the hell?" And I
And
just
it be full of raisins because they like literally just go straight through you.
like, tee, like, we're full ass grown adults, and I'm still
You
doing that
still,
to like pick on
yeah.
my sister. But yeah, that's a whole different karma ball game with siblings. It's
Yeah.
totally because you are 100%, your siblings are literally. I remember my mother said that once to me when my sister and I were like fighting about a toy or something. My mother came in and she was like, "I want you guys to look at each other. This is your family."
Mhm.
Because your dad and I will be gone one day, and you and your sister, that's all you have. And so it's siblings. So yeah, that was kind of
I
cool.
always used to say to the two girls when they would be like, I'm bored or whatever, and I'd be like, hey, I had two of you so you can entertain each other. Now go. Go play.
I gave each of you guys a friend.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
right.
and those siblings, like when your parents are at that age where you're having to make hard decisions, they're the people you rely on because they're the ones that share in that responsibility. And so that's the whole family unit. Speaking of motherhood, siblings, like the whole family unit is just nothing but working karma. That's all it is just work karma working itself out. And as we were talking about that with the whole like being unattached, you guys, if you're new to spirituality, when I say unattached, I don't mean that you're just ignoring your child and you're no, you
No,
have to
not
be
at all.
fully invested. If you're a mother, you need spiritually, part of your dharma is to be fully invested in being a mother. But how do you do that with also, as we say, Paula, not interrupting somebody's karma, knowing that your
Yeah.
children have their own karma that they have come into. And as a mother, I think for the most part, men typically are better at doing that than women are. But as women,
Yeah,
we
I
want to
think so.
like remove the karma, but we can't do that. How do you handle what's your advice as a mother, Paula, to be able to like be protective, be supportive, be nurturing, but also step back when you need to step back?
Yeah, well, I think it's something I've really had to learn and practice as I've gone along. I remember one lovely friend I had from high school. She said to me that her mum was really strict with her when she was young. And then when she was a teenager, she became more of a friend. And I really liked that approach because I just remember from high school, I just remember any friends that had really controlling, strict parents, man, they would just rebel. They would escape. They would want to go be with different guys. They'd want to drink. They'd just, run amok. So I always knew that being too controlling was never going to be an option. Plus, I don't know, I'm a Pisces. I'm too crazy. I was like, I can't be bothered like fighting with you and arguing with this. I hate confrontation. But I do have my boundaries. And I'm like, I would not tolerate being spoken to in a rude way. I will not tolerate certain language. Like my girls know that they don't even bother. I don't even have to ground them. I like never ground them. And like my biggest threat for them is probably to take their phone off them because that's their world. And I've only had to do that maybe 2 or 3 times because I just have such a good relationship with them now. But it hasn't always been easy and it's not always been good. I've gone through periods of when I've been closer to one daughter more than another and the other one's kind of drifted from me a bit and that's been really hard. But I think in terms of the detachment things, so when they were very little, when they were toddlers and stuff, I definitely had to be more firm. And like I wasn't really into smacking or anything like that. I mean, I did it a couple of times because sometimes you just push to a limit and you just like, you've got to step in and do something. But timeout was a big thing for me because I did read in one book that timeout is because kind of in order to kind of set boundaries with them, you've got to take something away from them that they really, really want. And when they're a toddler, like this is past the baby stage. You don't want to be doing this at the baby stage. But once they're, getting to like 3, 4 years old and they're starting to have those tantrums and that they're okay, it's like, okay, you can go have time out in your room and taking you away from them as a parent, that's the thing that they want the most. And you only do it for like 30 seconds to a minute. And then, you let them out of the room. And then I just sit down and just say, look, why did mummy put you in timeout? And just kind of talk about that. So I was quite firm with them as children. And then as they've gotten older, then it has actually naturally developed into more of a friendship now. So I do feel like I have a really good friendship with my girls, but there's still boundaries in place that we don't, like I'm a parent at the end of the day. With the detachment, it's been challenging, especially with when they're going through something challenging at school with issues with friends or with guys or whatever. And man, my heart just breaks for them. And because I went through my own stuff in high school, and high school, unfortunately for me, wasn't the happiest time. It's not that I didn't have great friends because I was really lucky to have great friends, but I was just really struggling with depression and I really struggled with being in an institution, being so limited and controlled.
Yeah.
Just school's just not for me. But putting that aside, basically, I've lost my train of thought now.
With not interrupting their karma.
Yes. Yeah. So then seeing them go through that struggle, man, like as a mum being an empath, you just want to fix it for them. But through my spiritual studies, I have learned that we need those dark nights of the soul experiences, man. If I hadn't gone through my own, I wouldn't be who I am today. And that's why, like, I'm not angry with my parents. I'm not angry with any of the experiences I've had in my childhood because everything that's happened to me, I mean, we all go through struggles. We all go through different issues and we need them because, man, if I hadn't suffered with depression and anxiety, how could I have that understanding for other people that have gone through that? If I didn't have a very self-absorbed mother who just cared about herself and was angry all the time, then how could I empathize with people like that? And that also made me I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to be that kind of mum to my girls. I want to be emotionally available. I want to be there.
I want to purify. Well, and suffering is, I pulled this book out, guys, because what you're saying is so important. And I think that's where where the controlled demolition of spirituality, where the fake spirituality really gets it wrong, and they do it for we're taught a lot that suffering is bad, and that
Yes.
if you are in alignment with God, you're not going to suffer. But actually, when you're on the initiate's path, when your soul is on that path, you have signed up for a life full of suffering. Now, this doesn't
Yeah.
seek it out, but because that is what. And I'm going to read you a paragraph from I'm going to read you something from Ram Dass that he talks about with suffering. Your own suffering, be it loss, failure, grief, or physical pain, hurts like hell. Your heart may be broken, and yet here you are. You may have had an experience of suffering that burned deep into you and created a different quality of your being. You see the way the suffering forced your awakening. It's hard to imagine spiritual curriculum in which suffering 101 is not a part of the course for becoming a full human being. It's a fierce teaching. So I want to put that up because Ram Dass was one of the most loving. His whole thing was bhakti yoga, which is devotion and love. But he's saying, and if you guys take these courses, because I talk a lot about his notes, like suffering is grace. Because when you suffer, that's what forces an awakening for you.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
forces.
And it lets you have compassion for people, because when you have suffered different things, you really feel for other people. And I do. I feel a lot for people, and I have many times crying for people that I don't even know. On, even just hearing about these LA fires, I'm like almost in tears, because I just can't imagine going through that, losing your home, losing everything. But
I hope that you are enjoying this conversation with Paula and me thus far. I'm taking a brief moment right now to pause the conversation to let you guys know that we are about to get into some really, really, really heavy stuff. And so if this is something that might be triggering for you, please take care of yourself. We're going to be talking about trauma and the concept of time binding, which was actually not what we had planned on talking about today, but we kind of just went with the flow of the conversation because obviously it was something that most likely needed to be spoken about on a grander scale. But before we get into this heavy conversation, I just wanted to share with you guys something really quickly with our Esoteric Academy online. We have just put together a 30-day workbook for beginners. So just hold on one second. I'm going to play you a little bit of information about the 30-day workbook. All the information about the Esoteric Academy is down in the description box below. As always, right now until February 20th of 2025, we are running a soft launch special, which means that you can sign up for monthly tuition for only $25 a month. And if you if you sign up for it before the grand opening, which is on February 20th of 2025, we will keep your tuition at $25 a month. We will never up your tuition to the $40 a month. So something for you to consider. And again, for those of you who are new to spirituality or real spirituality, you're new to this concept of exercise being the foundation of spirituality, of suffering being grace, then this 30-day workbook to help you get started hopefully will be an asset for you. So just hold on for one second to hear about this 30-day workbook, and then we're going to get back into this really heavy, deep conversation. And as always, as I started with, if this conversation becomes a little bit too much for you, it's okay to either take breaks or to go and take care of yourself.
Hi, everybody. We are from the Esoteric Academy, and we just wanted to share our latest little
addition, our new addition to the curriculum.
The curriculum, yep. It was Bryce's great idea to create basically a beginner's guide for people that are new to starting the exercise, because it can be a little bit overwhelming when you're first getting started, to planning it out. When are you going to fit it in? What should you do? And because Bryce has put quite a few different levels and different exercises in there, and I mean, she is an exercise teacher. She's a yoga teacher, so she knows what she's doing in terms of planning out what you should start with, where you should go. So basically, we've created this 30-day guide for you guys, and we just wanted to give you a little sneak peek of what it looks like, so we can so you guys can have a feel and check it out. So I'm just going to bring up to share it on my screen. Okay, so can you see that?
Yes,
Okay.
I see it.
Okay, awesome. So this is our 30-day beginner guide workbook created by us. And basically it's just going to take you through. We've got this beautiful yoga quote here that was from your yoga teacher.
Saraswati, my the daughter of Sri K. Patapi Joyce and the mother of Sharat, my teacher. Yeah, and she's also a teacher herself. So she's amazing.
Awesome.
And I love this quote. Practice, it is said that where there is no effort, there is no benefit. Strength, stamina, and sweat are unique aspects of traditional yoga, seemingly contrary to the Western perception of yoga. This demanding practice requires considerable effort and taps into and circulates the vital energy throughout the body, strengthening and purifying the nervous system. The mind then becomes lucid, clear, and precise. And according to Sri K. Patapi Joyce, wherever you look, you will see God. Only through practice will we realize the truth of what our guru often says, everything is God. And I love that quote because that explains why exercise is the foundation of spirituality.
And why it's so important.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. So we're starting off with that. And then basically we just take you through. So this is just a contents page, and we basically just got your days kind of listed out for you. So you know what days you're going to be doing exercise, what days you're going to be having a rest day, and then you've made Sunday fun day. So that's a fun day of exercise. So yeah, we just basically just done a little welcome message from both of us. And then we just made up this calendar because, I don't know, for you visual learners out there like me, I like to see everything nice and neat in a little box. So yeah. So that's for the people out there that are a little bit anal retentive like me. And yeah, and then basically we've just put in like a nice little affirmation for each day. I've created a special meditation just for this, but I mean, of course, it can be listened to anytime. And basically, we've just got in what your exercise is going to be for the day, whether it's just a rest day or an exercise day. And we've got some, Bryce has written out some questions so that you can have a little journal, and just kind of write down, you know, what's going on, what you're experiencing, what you're going through. You can have so much incredible healing happens when you keep a journal and ask these questions and just really go into it. So this is just, it's really, really exciting. And then we've got different things for different days. So on some of the days where there's an exercise, you can just be focusing on the exercise, and we've got the link there all ready for you to go. And Bryce has got it all worked out, which is the best day, what's the best exercise to be practicing on each day. And then on the other days that you're not going to be doing some exercise, we've got some different classes that you can take that are available on the platform. So yeah, so basically we've got 30 days worked out for you. You guys can just follow through. And I mean, look, all of this is optional. You don't have to do every single thing. Right. If it's too overwhelming and you just want to do just the exercise, then just do that. Or if you want to do the exercise and the journal prompts, or just the exercise and the meditation, you know.
You can do it even as like a 60-day workbook where the first 2 days you just do the workouts, then you do it again, adding in the journaling and the classes. It's totally up to you. And I want to say too, with the journal prompts, I agree. Journaling is one of the most important things you can do. Because, and when we say journaling, guys, I'm talking about actually pen in hand, not typing it, because it connects to the heart chakra, your hand. But I want to be very clear that there are no wrong answers, and that nobody is going to be reading this unless you let somebody read this. Like this, Paula and I are never going to ask to see your journals. Nobody is. This is private stuff. So you can be as raw as you want to be. You know, and it's great to be able to go back when 30 days are over. In fact, I do that in the 30-day challenge. When you get towards the end, I have you go back and reread some of your journal entries just to see like where you've changed already, you know, so that you notice these changes. And so I'm so excited. And I hope that helps people, you know, help them get the knowledge to know how to keep moving forward after the 30 days. They kind of know what to do and how to evolve their practice. And yeah. And I'm really excited about our phone call. So I even say that in the workbook, like, you know, are you comfortable about joining us on a live phone call and asking questions, that you want to ask?
We want to hear like how you guys have gone, what experiences you've had, what's come up for you, what kind of emotions have come up, because when you're pushing yourself, different emotions come up when you're doing exercise, and it's very, very healing. So we want to hear everything, the good, the bad, the ugly,
Oh yeah, and there's gonna be it's gonna be messy. I will say this. I know this is just an advertisement, but for the new people, I tell my students this all the time. Pretty yoga is boring. Yawn. Pretty yoga is so boring. Messy yoga, that's what's interesting. So where it's messy for you, where it's hard, that's the interesting part. That's the good part. That's the juicy part. And I'm so excited about. I can't wait to hear the feedback from the workbook and see how you guys like doing the workbook.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
I think another thing that just has really helped me with the parenting and detachment is just, man, I feel like you've got to have faith in something. And since I was quite young, I've just always felt very drawn to angels. Angels have just always felt, and so I've just always just talked to them and just said, please protect my girls today. Every day I drop them off at school, I'll say, please put the pyramid of white light over them, which is Dolores Cannon's thing. And I'm like, please just protect them and keep them safe. And as a parent, there's only so much you can do. At the end of the day, they are their own person. You can care for them, you can love them, you can do everything you can for them, but you can't control every aspect of their life. And the more you control them, the more they're going to want to get away from you, because
they build more karma.
They've got to experience life. They've got to do their own. Biscoff.
Big dog mom too.
The dog wants her turn now.
I know, right?
Shh.
Sorry. I actually, you guys, and I wanted to, and I hope I don't cry going through this. And I didn't even plan on talking about this with you, but so Ram Dass does a lot of, we talk about not like interrupting someone's karma or letting people live out their soul's path, especially as a parent. He also, in relation to that, he has a big part of Ram Dass's stuff was like the consciousness of dying, of like accepting and understanding that, and accepting that, and not trying to stop that from happening. But in this one part, I'm going to read this to you, and I hope I don't cry. Reading this letter he wrote to a parent who, this is going to be in a course, guys, so you're getting a sneak peek here. And I want your response as a parent, because I had a hard time getting through this. So if I mess my makeup up, guys, I apologize. And I'm going to have to like change some words here. But let me start a little bit before the letter he wrote to parents that lost a child. 11-year-old Rachel and her friend went to a neighborhood Jewish community center to play tennis. And Rachel was intimately, and you guys know what I'm saying, okay? I can't say the R word or the M word. I received a call that night from a friend who told me that the parents had read my books and listened to my tapes. Was there something I could say to them at this moment? I realized I couldn't do it tomorrow. It had to be done right now because the enormity of the pain was so great. So I wrote this letter to them, and I would like to share it with you. Dear Steve and Anita, Rachel finished her work on Earth and left the stage in a manner that leaves those of us left behind with a cry of agony in our hearts, as the fragile thread of our faith is dealt with so violently. Is anyone strong enough to stay conscious through such teachings as you are receiving? Very few. And even they would have only the briefest whisper of equanimity and peace amidst the screaming trumpets of their rage, grief, horror, and desolation. I can't assuage your pains with any words, nor should I, for your pain is part of Rachel's legacy to you. Not that she or I would inflict such pain by choice, but there it is. And it must burn its purifying way to completion. For something in you dies when you bear the unbearable. And it's only in that dark night of the soul that you are prepared to see God as God sees you, and to love as God loves. Now is the time to let your grief find expression. No false strength. Now is the time to sit quietly and speak to Rachel and thank her for being with you these few years, and encourage her to go on with her work, knowing that you will grow in compassion and wisdom from this experience. In my heart, I know that you and she will meet again and again and recognize the many ways in which you have known each other. And when you meet, you will, in a flash, know what now is not give know what now is not given to you to know, and why this had to happen the way it was. I hope that makes, sorry guys, it's hard to read when you got tears. Our rational minds can never understand what has happened, but our hearts, if we can keep them open to God, will find their own intuitive way. Rachel came through you to do her work on earth, which included her manner of death. Now her soul is free, and the love that you share with her is invaluable to the winds of changing time. Love, Ram Dass. I'm sorry, guys, that just, those words. So as a parent, how does that, I mean, if you, I mean, God, heaven forbid, like the worst manner of death possible, and to get that, how does that, to be able to feel
Oh,
the pain and the grief, but accept that that was part of her karma, and that was, as he said, her passing was also the legacy she's left on to you as well. As a parent, how does that type of almost equanimity, painful equanimity, you know, the grief, but also accepting that would be part of her, how, as a parent, how does that, it's so hard, isn't it?
that's one of the hardest things, especially because I've got girls.
Yeah.
Not, not it's so funny because growing up, like I used to just think, man, it's so much worse being a girl, and then learning all the stuff that we've learned over the last few years, it's like, wow, I don't know that it's actually so bad to be a girl. I think I'd actually not want to be a boy, because
Yeah.
it seems that it happens a lot to boys. But that being said, just yeah, having girls, that's definitely something that I've thought about a lot, and I don't actually know how I would cope if I lost any of them. I was at Bunnings a couple of months ago. That's like a hardware store in Australia, and my little Scarlett, she's 5, and she's gone through some anxiety this year due to a separation and stuff, and she freaked out when it was raining, and I was just like, oh, let's go get some veggies for the veggie garden and whatever, and she didn't want to go in the rain. So I was like, oh, okay. And, I was getting a little bit frustrated with her. I was like, oh, you're being a bit silly kind of thing. And I was like, let's just go pick something. And she just kind of stayed, and I'd walked off and kind of just had a look at some veggie gardens, and I thought that she was still there. And then when I turned around, she wasn't there. And then I couldn't find her anywhere. And I was just losing it in the shop. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, I felt like the worst parent. I'm like, I lost my child. Somebody's taken her. And I went up to the shop assistant, and I was just like, I couldn't help it. I was just tears in my eyes and stuff. And I'd asked this lady, it's like, have you seen my daughter anywhere? And yeah, it was horrible. And I was just in tears. And then this lady came, and she had her, and and I just grabbed her and held her. And I was just like, it was just only a few seconds, but just, I can't even imagine people that have lost their children. You just love them so much, like, just, and I know that you would feel that way about your niece and nephew. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't
And I
matter whether
can't,
it's your actual child or not. The love that you can feel for them is just,
I can't
yeah,
even
it's
get
so.
through that letter without just my heart breaking for, and I thought Ram Dass and his compassion, he was very compassionate, but also like it is, we have to be here for the suffering. We have to be
Mhm.
present. We can't ignore the pain, the agony, and the manner of which things happen. And to be a parent, I think that's some of the hardest karma to go through, because you're right, Paul, like you're the parent, you're the one that's supposed to be the ultimate protector. I know
Mhm.
every parent that's not a psychopath would tell you in a heartbeat that they would take a bullet for their child, that they would
Oh,
easily lay their life down for, and I felt that way about my nieces and actually I also feel the way about my dog too, to be honest with you guys. But that love of a
yes.
protection, and wanting to, like, and I remember the first time my nephew was born, my oldest, the oldest one, so the one that made me an aunt, holding him and feeling like I get it now, like I would absolutely do anything for this child. And when, in that situation, they sent their child, and this obviously was in the days before cell phones and all that kind of stuff, to a community center to play tennis. They didn't think, and then to have that happen,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
where you think your child's in a place where they are safe. She probably been to that community center numerous times with her little friends to play tennis. And I felt like Ram Dass's letter was so eloquent in acknowledging the grief and the pain and saying we don't understand some things right now, but one day we will understand, and that actually our manner of departure is a part of our legacy. And that's so difficult to like honor. And that's the unsolvable riddle. My teacher David Grieg used to talk about that, like how when we are souls in a body and on a ride, we're not, you're not Paula, I'm not Bryce. These are just the ride we're on right now. But yet, how do we remain so invested in the melodramas, as Ram Dass likes to say, of this ride? How do we allow our nervous system to feel? Because that's why we took this ride, was to feel, with also being able to observe that emotion and remain equanimous about the outcome of karma. It's very difficult to do. It's very difficult. And that's what makes it so spirituality so hard sometimes.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, I've never really enjoyed Christianity, religion very much because I just felt very forced upon me as a child. But I really understand now why people have their faith. I feel like if you don't have faith in something, I don't know how you get through the day, because I believe in God. I just don't believe in the God that we're taught in the church. But I so strongly believe in God, and I so strongly believe that there are other beings there to help us, like angels and things like that. And it's through reading and learning about all of this. I think that's the only way I can kind of cope with it all is just because I'm like, okay, we do choose, I believe personally that we do choose a blueprint, and I know that things can change. We can change, where we're going to go and things like that. But I do believe that the overall blueprint is chosen, and we've chosen our parents, and we've chosen our family members and what's going to happen. And I do feel like if something like that, so dramatic, happening, that we don't know, we only know what we know, but there's obviously some reason why our soul has chosen for such an experience to happen.
Absolutely.
And maybe the parent needed to learn something from that experience. I'm not saying that it's at all anything enjoyable at all, because it's horrible. I just know this is what I have to comfort myself,
Yeah.
so I just kind of tell myself, if anything was to happen to any of my children or vice versa, I'm very, very close to my girls. And I know that if anything happened to me, I know that they would be lost without me. But I feel that knowing that there are other lives after this, that our soul is beyond this. This is not everything. I feel like we're just playing a game at the moment. We're just playing the Jumanji game, and then we're going to leave. And if we've chosen certain things, challenging things to happen, that's what our soul wanted to learn. And it's kind of not our job to judge that.
Right.
If you know what I mean. I feel like it's
Experience.
not, yeah, like it's not our job to go around and say, well, why is this happening? Why do bad things happen to good people? I don't feel like that's our responsibility. Our responsibility is to go into that emotion and go into what it's bringing up for us. So Bryce, for you, just then when you were reading that note and the way it affected you, and you don't even have children in this current life, I know that you're very close to your nieces and nephews, yeah. But the way that you reacted, some people might think that was a little bit of an overreaction.
Oh no. Well,
And
I'm a
why?
Scorpio moon, so Scorpio
Well,
is
no, but the reason why I'm picking up on that is because I feel like you have lost a child. I don't know that you've lost one in this life right now, but as you were reading that, I felt very, very strongly that you have lost a child maybe in the most recent life. I don't know, but
Probably. I mean, I do. It's
yeah.
so weird with like motherhood because for me, karmically, like I always thought growing up I would have kids. I love
Yeah.
kids. I feel very protective over children. I feel that motherly instinct to protect, even if your girls were here, Paula, I would be very protective. They would be safe with that makes me emotional. Um, and
See,
I think a lot
that attachment. Yeah.
I think a lot of women, I know some men too, but I think when we see women do horrible things too, it's even more shocking because I think
Oh yeah.
for the most part, like, and I live in a city, like I know you do too, Paula, like, I think now, like, if I were out on Peachtree, we're busy street and we're restaurants, people, and someone heard a child crying, I can imagine most women would turn to look
Yeah.
over the men
You
to see
do.
where's that child. And I think even with your situation with Scarlett, when a woman brought Scarlett to you, I think women are more aware when they see a child running around and are more apt to step in and take the child to where, to protect that child until we can find its mother. And I would say my karma with having children in my life, I always assumed, but it's weird because I always knew, even though I grew up in a very structured environment, private schools for generations. I've got long line of women who've been to university for, into the 1800s, which was, and my life, I never felt like it was going to play out the way that my sisters I just knew as a kid that my life was not going to play out that way, even though it was prepped to play out that way.
Mhm.
I remember it was my 36th birthday and I was in India. I'm 41, about to be 42 now. And I remember every time I get close to my birthday, I start to have like panic attacks because I haven't had a chance to have a child. It all comes down to that and me getting older. Even though I'm still my TMI, but I'm still my very super regular. Like I could definitely get pregnant if I wanted to. But I remember being 36 and it was my birthday and I was in the shala practicing and there's a very famous wall at KPT. People who practice know this wall because in a lot of pictures. It's an orange wall and it's got like, which orange is, it's like a sign of like monks, and it's got like all these pictures of all these past teachers. And I turned in transition and the wall, we have drishti, so our eye follows one, but in the peripheral, you see the wall. A wall that I've seen for years now. It's a famous wall, but this is my school. And I had this like epiphany in that moment because I was feeling that suffering of I'm 36 now, haven't had a child yet. And in that moment, I had this like prativa. Yes, but here you are. Like this is not this is your karma is here, is doing this, and that wouldn't have been accessible to you if you had had a child. And there was
Wow.
kind of a peace in that moment.
Mhm.
And then the knowledge that, like, I think it was Mark Atwood's poem that living many lives, we've had many children. We've had many,
Yes.
many children. That experience is there. We can't remember it, but I think you're
Mhm.
right. I mean, am a Scorpio moon, and I do have CPTSD complex post, so that might be why I get so emotional. The gravity of what.
Oh, I didn't mean that in an offensive
Oh
way.
no 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 no!
It's just
I know.
I've noticed with myself if I am starting to overreact, not overreact. I'm sorry, it's probably not the right word to use, but just
Deeply
if
deeply
I'm
affected.
getting very emotional about something, either angry or really like crying or feeling really in a really intense emotion, I've kind of just learned over the years that that is a trigger point for me. And I feel like there's something deeper for me to go into. And so I've been kind of practicing that the last couple of years, especially. And I feel like I've been having some big transformations. Like I was saying to you before we came on air, 6 months ago, there is no way I would have gone on YouTube. No way. I didn't even like being, I didn't even like having photos taken of me. And like when little Scarlett's walking around with the phone and she's trying to like take photos of me or video record me, I'm like, no, go away. I don't want to hear my voice. I don't want to be on camera. Like, go away. But I did some healing work
Mhm.
on that. Actually, it was really interesting. I only did it a couple of months before I started talking to you, Bryce. And I was feeling really, really emotional. I dropped my girls off at school And I was like driving home, and I was just feeling really, really emotional. I was like, what is going on? Why am I reacting like this? And I was feeling all apprehensive about doing online stuff and putting myself out there. And I was like, okay, I just need to go into this and just, what am I feeling? And I realized that I was just feeling a lot of fear of being rejected. Rejection and abandonment was really coming up. And so I was just like, okay, let's just breathe into that. And like, where's that coming from? And, you know, there was different things, memories popped up from my childhood, and that would help explain it. But I felt like it was just, sometimes that's it. You hit the spot and it's a memory in your childhood. Other times it can be a little bit further. And then I just suddenly got this flash that I was a young girl in a very small village, and I had slept with some guy in the village. We weren't married. And basically, my family disowned me and they kicked me out of the village. And I remember just standing outside of the village. And like, you know, sometimes you think, am I just making this up? But I think when you feel the emotion, you're like, where did that come from? Like, I don't feel like I am making that up. So I don't know. Who knows? I could be making it up. I don't know. But
Well, it could be layers of things because I know
it could be.
with that letter in my, I mean, I knew what I was about to read too, so I was kind of, it was already in my head what I was about to read. But also, for me as a child, I wasn't unalived like Rachel, but I was also,
Yeah.
and I know I
So
can't say that word on YouTube, but it's been a struggle for me because my parents ignored it. I had two doctors as a child. I mean, my uterus fell out when I was in high school. I didn't all the way, but there's a word for it, and it's a sign. That's a sign of
that happening.
ABUSC. I have to, again, it's YouTube, guys, so we have to be careful what we say here. And I had two doctors say something to my mom, and that's been something that recently I've been working with, like the fact that, and I can understand it from my mom's perspective, that sometimes it's easier to ignore the truth than to face the pain of the truth, or the
Yeah.
fact that you've put, my parents, and that's anger that I actually probably, and Dr. Romney, who does, she's like the specialist and she's like the narcissist whisperer on YouTube. She's great, you guys, but she actually had a really healing video she put up a while ago. I might have shared it on my Instagram, where she said, we're taught that we have to forgive, we have to forgive. Well, I'm saying from a clinical perspective, no, we don't. No, we don't. You can still be healthy and healed without forgiving somebody. I can still love my parents, but also not forgive them for putting me in a very dangerous place and leaving me there. The town,
And not acknowledging it when you tried to talk about it.
and even as an adult, when I would try to bring it up and I was ignored, oh no, that didn't, no, those doctors didn't know what they were talking. Well, my uterus was falling out. So
Yeah, there's
there
something
was
going on.
something going on. And, for me, I have a huge disdain for the town in which this happened in, and I don't and I will say, I've acknowledged that my parents are loyal to that town over their own child.
Well,
And they
yeah.
might say, no, that's not true, but actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
And my parents are very affluent people. In the South, we say a good family is a family that's basically rich. They're a
Right.
good family. They're rich. It has nothing to do with their moral compass. And a lot of times in the South, what you see from the outside, from the sidewalk of a house, is not actually what's happening behind closed doors. And so I think too that affects me as well. And I think you're right. I think there was something in a past life, but I think that also hits on karma from this life as well.
Oh, 100%.
Knowing that
100%.
me as a child, I was not protected at all, at all. And I've actually confronted, I mean, my dad and I don't have a relationship anymore. And that I don't, that's not something I really want. I don't really want my father in my life. But my mother, I've actually had conversations with her. Like, I need you. It would help me if you just acknowledged
Yeah.
that for you being an influential, affluent person at the country club in this town was way more important, because if you had to acknowledge that this was happening to your daughter by a prominent man in the community, it would have put a scarlet letter on you too as well. And you didn't want that. You wanted to maintain. So it's easier just to, she would tell me, don't rock the boat. Just don't rock the boat. which then of course played out in my adult life, where I have allowed myself to be taken advantage of. I've allowed myself, because I was taught that by telling me that as a child and not actually protecting me, was teaching me that I am not important as a human being, that I am the punching bag, that I'm the person that whatever happens to me, just don't say anything. Let's just protect the
Just be a
person.
good girl and
Yeah,
just be quiet.
just
Yeah.
be quiet. Don't say it. And I have confronted my mom about this. And I've taken, when I watched that video with Dr. Romney, like, I can still love my mother, but I don't forgive her
Mhm.
for what she did to me as a child, because I
Yeah.
hold her responsible for not,
Yeah.
I don't hold her responsible for the first time it happened, but the fact that they didn't do anything,
Yeah. Moving forward. Yeah.
and they kept putting me in that situation, and they kept over and over again kept leaving me. People would say, oh, but you grew up affluent, you had a private school education, you had all. That doesn't mean shit, because I
No.
was in there are people that grew up in horrific neighborhoods with dangerous schools that grew up in a more stable home than I did.
With
And I
more
actually
love and support.
AG Mo, or well, no, what's his name? That tutor guy, the guy that HD tutors.
Oh yes, HG tutor. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
He talks about that. He's an iron narcissist. He talks about that.
Yeah.
He goes, kids who grow up, it doesn't matter how affluent your family is. If you have a stable home life, you will be a healthy adult. But if you have parents who are not emotionally stable, and I don't think my parents were emotionally stable either. I always say, Paula, I was my parents' Saturn return. They were like 26 when I was born. I look
Yeah.
at
Right.
pictures in my baby book and I'm like, my dad, there's one picture of him holding me and he's got a beer in his hand and I look like I'm about to fuck.
Oh,
Like, they weren't paying attention. They were
yeah.
kids. They were literal kids,
Yeah.
and so I think there was a lot of underlined aggression towards me that and I think that's complicated, isn't it, Paula? Like, and Ram Dass does talk about this too. He says, if people ask me if I'm happy, I'll say yes, I'm happy. In the same sentence, they can say, well, are you sad? Yes, I'm sad. I'm both.
Mhm.
And we're
Mhm.
both. We're all of it. We're everything. And yet here we are, as he says, and yet here we are. And so I think, Paula, I think for me, a lot of my karma in choosing parents that would do that to me. And I know and that's weird because I know that they love me. But
Yeah.
if you don't love, and I know the way that behavior played out was them not loving themselves, really, because if you really loved yourself,
Absolutely.
you wouldn't care what you looked like
What
to the
other people think. You would be like, no, this is my child and I'm protecting them. Yeah. And that's the point where I feel like I'm getting to now, where because I grew up, I was such a good girl. I was always doing as I was told, didn't want to rock the boat. I don't like conflict and everything. But I've just gotten to the point where my kids are too important to me. And if people are not treating them right, I'm not going to tolerate it.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to do something about it. But I think it's also hard with that generation as well, just the way that they were brought up to be. And, they're not always so open-minded to look and go any deeper. They just don't want to go there,
No, and I
unfortunately.
think because and also that's the deeper issue too. Like, when this was happening to me, my parents weren't around because I was in an environment where they thought I was safe.
Yeah.
So the fact that to accept that you put your child in a situation has to be very painful for the parent too. So that's another layer
Yes,
of why it's easier just to ignore it.
exactly. They have to look at them and why they thought that they could just be dismissive and not, be continuously checking in and see what's going on and everything. And
Huh. And the
yeah.
funny thing is and I've never mentioned this publicly, but when my boyfriend first met my family, he goes, "Oh, I can definitely tell there that you were ABUSCs as a child." He goes, "It's as very clear as day that you
Wow.
were ABUSCD'd, that there was a lot of." And when I say that, I don't say that, if that's when you have this going on and your parents aren't protecting you. And as a child, I think as a child, you don't really know what's going on. Like, you know something bad is happening,
Understand.
and
Yeah.
you're trying to express it in ways because you don't have the words for it because you're little.
Mhm.
And when parents dismiss it, it's like you have nowhere, you're just seen as like the bad kid because you're rocking the boat.
Yeah.
You're
And you've
rocking the
got
boat
nowhere to
like,
go with that
yeah.
knowledge. Yeah.
So I think that's also another reason why the story of Rachel affected me so much, because I wasn't
Absolutely.
unalived, but I had that innocence. And then I didn't have, I'm sure Rachel's parents were upset that they didn't protect her.
Oh,
But they thought that
yeah.
she was in a place where she could be, but the parents now, when that happens, you have to accept it, that's what happened. My parents still don't have to accept it because I'm still alive. And I think, and it's interesting, another thing concept that Ram Dass brings up that I wanted to talk with you about too, Paula, is this idea of time binding, where we focus so much on past events that we bind ourselves to that time. And he talks
Wow.
about this in the sense of like when we go into retirement, when we say, well, I used to be a teacher, I used to do that, that's time binding.
Right.
So I even think about that even in the realms of healing. Like, I understand where a lot of my anxiousness comes from, but how do I now take that emotion and be here in at 41 with that, and work on it from a 41-year-old moment? It's hard. This is all, spirituality is not easy. It's
Mhm.
being, we talk about this a lot because of a lot of fake spirituality will take you out of your body, will take you out of the experience. Oh, don't worry, at night you're off fighting galactic fights, your Xena warrior princess. That's all disassociation, and that's actually building more karma. Like, we have to be in this. We have to be here, as Ram Dass says, be here now. Like, we have to be in our body. Our soul picked to be in this experience for a reason. What's the lesson that the soul is trying to learn? And I think my boyfriend has said, he goes, I think your soul's trying to learn boundaries, is what your soul has really picked to learn in this life. And it's picks these, as Ram Dass says, suffering is what's going to force you into awareness. It's going to force you to wake up, and maybe, and I don't know. So what are your thoughts on the whole idea of time binding?
Well, I mean, that's fascinating. First of all, I just really want to know, and I just want to commend you for your courage
Oh,
for speaking about this. I know that you've talked about it quite a few times on your channel over the years, and just that's amazing that you have the bravery to talk about it. And also, I want to say I'm so sorry that that happened to you,
thank
because
you. Well,
it's not a nice experience. I mean, I've personally had some little experiences happen to me. I don't think anything completely happened to me, but I've definitely had some little experiences in my past, and that was very confusing and very yeah, not fun. But to have what you had happen to you, not just once, but
multiple
multiple
times.
times,
Yeah.
I'm just really, really sorry that that happened to you. Um, the time binding is very fascinating. I think I've kind of been working on this kind of little practice that I do for myself. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, where I kind of will, I guess it's kind of like an inner child healing. And what I'll do, because so my mum abandoned not just me, but all of us kids a lot. She just left us alone a lot. Um, she used to work in a hospital. It was actually a mental hospital, and she was working as a nurse in there. And she would leave me in the car. And I was only a baby. I was like 12 months old or something. And I was strapped in the car, in my car seat. And she said, "Oh, I left you a sandwich and I left you your drink." And she goes, "And I'd come to the window and check on you." She'd be doing, a few hour shifts. And I don't think she was nursing anymore at that point. I think she was nursing before she had us kids. And then after that, she started doing cleaning because it was just like shorter shifts, and she just enjoyed cleaning. And yes, she'd do like a 3 hour shift, and she'd just come and check on me. And I'm like, wow, anybody could have just
Yeah.
smashed the window and grabbed me, and she would never have seen me again. I don't know. She'd do this every week. I don't know how long for, but yeah. So there was a lot of times where mum would just leave us at the house. She'd be cleaning. She wouldn't come home till, late hours at night time. And back then we had no mobile, so I had no idea where she was. And I would cry, and I'd ring my dad and be like, "Dad, what do I do?" And Dad was like an hour away, and he's just like, I could tell he felt terrible for me, but he didn't know what to do.
Mhm.
And then mum would just rock up, and we'd just go to sleep and get up and get on with it and happen it again. Like, I don't know what she was doing. But anyways, point is, there was a lot of abandonment issues. And so as a way to process this and to heal it is, I'll just have times when I will just kind of close my eyes and I will just kind of go back into a time where I really needed something from my mum. And like I had this memory of me crying in the cot, and I just literally just visualized me now picking up little baby me and just holding me and just saying to myself, you know, I love you, you're safe. You know, everything's okay. I'm here for you now. And I just told myself, I am giving you everything that mum never gave you. And I feel like I've had to do this a lot. I've had to do this for relationships, because the partners I've attracted are great guys, but they were not emotionally available for me and for what I needed. So I've gone back and I've just been like back to, you know, I got pregnant when I was 21. So 21 me, you know, with this brand new baby, and my partner's off somewhere else and I'm doing this on my own. So I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm here for you. I'm giving you what you needed. And so I feel like that has been really, really healing, because I remember my kinesiologist said this to me one time. She said that she was seeing a counselor or psychologist or whatever, and they had said to her that it's like trying to expect something from someone that they don't have to give is like walking into a shoe shop and trying to get a shoe that doesn't exist. Yeah. They can't give you something that they don't have to give. And a lot of people, I've just chosen a lot of emotionally unavailable people in this life. I mean, luckily my children are the complete opposite. So it's been amazing and it's been very healing for me. But other people have been emotionally unavailable. And so I feel like the best thing is like, well, who can give this to me? I can give it to me. I don't need anybody out there to give me what I didn't get. I can give it to me. And that has been so empowering to know that you can get your needs met. So I mean, even if you practice that, and even if your mum, I mean, yes, it would be amazing if she could say to you, I'm sorry, Bryce, I wasn't there for you and I didn't, you know, acknowledge it at the time. But sometimes our parents aren't able to do that.
Happen. Yeah.
And the most magic thing is that we can give that to ourselves. We don't have to wait for someone else out there to give that to us. We can give it to ourselves now in this moment.
You know, it's
and
so
I'm wondering, sorry, I was just going to say, I wonder if that would help with that time binding thing. Instead of being caught up in who you used to be, you can just be like, well, you know what, this is who I am now, and I'm going to give me what I need right now to feel full and complete and whole.
Yeah. And I think what you're saying too, because I think about like, and of course, like with my past relationship with men, besides my boyfriend now, a lot of that does come from my own father too, because my own father, you know, was not available and was very kind of nasty sometimes. And but I look back, I kind of do the same thing when I look back at my 20s and the broken girl that, and I love how you said lost. Like I was, because I was so beaten up, just so, and you couldn't see it from me, you know, from the physical outside, but you are just so emotionally just lying on the floor, bloody and beaten from, and nobody has come to help you. People just walked past you. And so I've said that, like, no wonder you dated awful men. Like, give yourself some grace, because you yourself were not put back together again. And it was getting into the yoga, and that really helped, you know, and that not, you know, and I can hold that space of like, it's not acceptable what happened to me as a child. That's not acceptable. That's not an act of love. And I will not forgive my parents for doing that. It's not okay. But I also still love my parents, and I love my mom, and I'll continue to have a relationship with her. But there's a boundary there. You fucked up. And healing that, for me, she's got her own karma to deal with, you know, in that regard. And so I think you're right about,
sorry.
And I'm sorry, you were left in a car, girl. I was thinking about that. Like I don't even leave our dog in a car. Like we were driving up, and we stopped by this big grocery store outside of Atlanta on our way back into Atlanta, and we knew that there was a potential of a snowstorm, so we wanted to stop at this big grocery store quickly and just get essentials. So my boyfriend stayed in the car with our dog, and I ran into the store and did the shopping. And I come out and my boyfriend's like, gotta go to the bathroom so bad. So he runs, I'm loading the car up and I shut the car door and I've still got, we call it a cart. I think you guys call it a trolley. We call it a cart, the grocery cart. And I'm looking around because I've got Ravi in the car and I see that there's a place I can bring the cart over. I'm not one of those people that just leaves in the parking lot. I'm going to take it back because I actually feel bad for the employees to have to go chase down those carts. And so I'm thinking, okay, I look at Ravi through the window. I'll be like, I'll be right back. Like he can understand what I'm saying. And I'm running to drop the car and I'm looking back, making sure Ravi can still see me. And like putting the car back, I'm like, I'm right here, buddy. I'm right here. Like I see the little head popping up. And so the fact that I felt for like 30 seconds stepping away from my dog leaving, I didn't want him to feel like he had been left in the car. The fact that you as a baby were left in the car.
Yeah.
Rough. And I'm sorry that happened to you because that is rough. And I would never, like, and I think for me, it's like, I don't want, part of my thing is like, I don't want anybody that I care about or love to feel like they have been abandoned. I don't want anybody to feel like they are alone or to feel like I want to make sure they know that even my dog, I'm right here, buddy. I'm right here. Like, I haven't left you, and so I get that. And, yeah, you guys, I know I know it's getting late for you and I wanted to talk about like the female body and motherhood and exercise, but should we save that for another episode?
Yeah, or we can do a part 3.
No, because it feels weird just to shift gears and be like, yeah, talk about the abdominal system,
Yeah.
And
let's talk about boobs.
Yeah, like that seems a little bit so. And I know because there is a lot I have to say about that hopefully will help bring some peace of mind to women, even if you haven't had children. I do want to talk about the female body. Like even for me, as I haven't had children, but your body is biologically designed for that. And so there's going to be, depending on what's going on with you, the breast size, all that kind of stuff is going to play a lot into how your body responds to exercise. And I
so fascinating. I had no idea. I had no idea.
Yeah, and so I can't, and I will. This is kind of we'll end this on a funny note because I have bigger boobs, right? I'm a smaller person with bigger boobs, and bless these guys' heart. There are some guys in the Ashtanga world that straight men that I'm really good friends with, who are also teachers. And some of these postures are definitely not made for women with boobs. Like they were created by men, right? And I've had so many male friends like text me, or I'll be over in India and they'll pull me aside and I can tell they're really uncomfortable, but they're trying to ask me advice on how to work so that they know how to help their students.
Oh, yeah.
Like how with particular postures, and I can see them being really uncomfortable asking, and I'm usually like, I know exactly what you're asking me. I'm fine. It's not uncomfortable for me. I respect the fact that you as a male want to figure out by asking a female who's also a teacher how to work with this. So let me just tell you what's going on. So this is something that I know a lot about, and so our next episode we can talk about that, or the fact that I don't know if you know this, Paula, but for women who have had cesarean sections, now listen. I am not anti-cesarean section. I think it's amazing that in modern day medicine that we can do that because there hundreds of years ago.
There are times when you need it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I am not against, if you had to have a C-section, do not beat yourself up about that. As a human being, I'm glad that was available to you. However, when you have that happen, your body has not completed the process of birth. So
okay, yeah.
What tends to happen sometimes when we trigger that area is you will finish the labor. And this can happen 20 years later from when you had your child. You could go back into labor.
Whoa.
And that's actually really important if that happens, to let it happen.
Wow. Because it needs to be completed.
It needs to be completed. The body wants to complete it. And you might find that some of the extra weight you're holding on to might all of a sudden go away. So there's a lot we can talk about when it comes to women and exercise in the female body in our next episode. So I always tell women that I'm working with, that I know who've had cesarean sections, like if you start to feel this happen, let me know, because we're definitely going to pull you out of the exercise, but we need to let you like go sit in the lobby or something and just finish. I don't want you driving, but you're going to need to finish, let your body complete the cramping, basically.
Wow. That is fascinating.
Yeah, so fascinating. So, but again, please, like I'm serious. I'm serious when I say this. This is not a punishment. If you had a, I am so grateful. Thank you, God, that we live in a time where we
Yes,
can do that for
because
you.
it saves lives. It saves
Absolutely.
lives.
Absolutely. And without that, you could have lost your child or you or both.
Yeah.
And so, listen, if the price you have to pay for that is just having a delayed,
Yeah, then it's worth it.
worth it. And so, and that might help too for women who do have cesarean sections to know that they haven't completed it yet. So I think when
Yeah.
you know that that might be why you're holding on to weight or there's an
Yeah.
imbalance chemically,
Or
like
other issues or emotional issues,
yeah,
perhaps. Wow, that's
that
so
when your
fascinating.
body is able to get back into, we can actually start to work with it to get your body immediately to so that might be helpful information for our young women out there who have that. We need to wait about 6 weeks. You do have to wait a period of time to let the body recuperate as best it can because you have had surgery, and then we can actually work to help trigger that so that you don't have to wait 20 years for it to complete itself. You can just let it complete itself. You can force it to the body wants to, it's not forced yet because the body wants to complete it,
Yes.
but yeah, but your body basically thinks that you've been like pregnant for 20, like it says it, so yeah, even though there's no baby, so it's not feet, but there's still an incomplete process chemically there in your body. This is not just emotional, energetic, it's also a chemical and biological thing too. So there's so much I want to talk about because
Yes, we are definitely doing a part 3.
yeah, even with again the boobs, the way the boobs connect to the core, the way it's just there's so much going on. I think if women it could just liberate a lot of societal pressure if you knew this stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Polished. Let me see. Do I have
Awesome.
you guys just a reminder? Okay, good. I signed out because I realized if I don't sign out, okay. Let's see here. So we do have the Esoteric Academy here, you guys. Again, this is something that Paula and I are building. We're in so Paula, we have how many students do we have so far?
Uh, we've got about 51 last time I checked. Yeah.
That's amazing. And we've got the 30-day beginner guide that's up
Yes.
now. So,
Yeah.
for you guys who are like really want to do this, but you've never done this before and you feel a little bit lost because there is a lot of when you sign up for our academy, part of the thing I like about it is that you get to choose like where you start, how often you use it, like we guide you in the videos, but as far as when you take the classes or do it, that's up to you. So we do have a 30-day beginner guide for people who
Yeah.
are workbook for people who are brand new, where we walk you through a lot of the stuff, a lot of the exercises. We only have like 3 to 4 days of exercising, so you kind of get to build that up. We
Yeah.
have the
Get used to it.
academic, yeah, academics, the Ashtanga yoga. We have again the extra. I was saying, Paula, like you said, your little girl liked one of the videos too. I'm so
Yeah,
excited
she
that
was
people.
loving it this morning. She's like, Mummy, this is fun. I want to do this every day. And I'm like, okay.
Awesome. So you guys, I was telling Paula, I have got a playlist now. I'm working on a 75-minute fusion class. Let's see that's a flush class, where's here's a fusion class. So these fusion classes, which
Yes, they're all the fusion ones together. Yeah.
yeah, so I call them fusion because we're fusing all these different techniques and lineages into one class, like from dance to ballet to yoga to kickbox martial arts. So it's all so I have a lot of people like the fusion classes. I like the fusion classes too. So what I've done is I've created a 75-minute class where I'm in the process. I've got all the music picked. So it's all music from Gen X, millennial generation, and the young kids today. Some of their music as well. And so I'm putting that's a 75-minute class. I'm putting that together with our young girls, our teenagers, and our little girls who have the energy in mind for
Mhm.
this class. So you can do it with your mamas. And so that's coming soon. We just loaded 3 new workouts earlier this month, and I've got the Bhagavad Gita course right here. Alchemy
Mhm.
of Movement course, and we've got Healing for Ascension level 1, level 2, and level 3, right? Yeah, from Paula
Yeah.
here. And then starting in February, we'll be getting into our
Yes,
live
then we'll be doing
calls.
the live calls. Yeah.
Yep. And I know I'm going to go ahead and I've got a course that I am finishing up probably today or tomorrow to send over to Paula to load up into a new course, a complete course to load up. I just read from you guys from some of the stuff to load up into our academy. And I was telling you, Paula, a lot of the courses I'm starting with, like the Bhagavad Gita and this other course I'm working on, are really good for beginners. I'm
Mhm.
looking through a lot of Ram Dass's because Ram Dass was really good at teaching beginners of these big theories in very simplistic form. And so that's why I'm starting with these before we get into some of the more complicated
Yeah,
philosophy as
I think
well.
it's very important.
And I'm going to tease it. So, Paula, my boyfriend doesn't, he's very introverted, and he is going to be doing an interview this Saturday at 6 a.m. our time with Paula about his journey.
Yeah.
And so I'm super excited about that. So it speaks highly of Paula that he's willing to do that with Paula. I'm not going to
Yeah.
be involved in that.
I feel flattered. I really do.
I'm not going to be involved in that because I feel like when it's your boyfriend, it kind of is like a mother and a daughter or a child and a mother where you start spatting with each other a little bit. So I
Yeah.
was like, I'm just going to
Or
back
like
away.
talking for them.
Exactly. Don't talk about this. Don't talk about that. So I told Paula some questions to ask him, but he's going to be sitting here instead of me, working with Paula with this interview, and then he's also going to be working on a Vedic chanting course for our alchemy, our Esoteric Academy. And of course, Cindy is working on stuff, and we've got just a lot of stuff coming, you guys. I think Catherine Edwards is going to do some more stuff with us on the academy, you guys. So it's getting, I mean, I'm so excited, Paula. I mean, this has been so fun to do. And
It really has. And it's come together really quickly. And we're just so excited. And we've got some beautiful people that are joining up and commenting in our little community. So I'm actually starting to make it like a daily habit now to like log in and check to see who's posted. And, yeah.
I'm terrible at that, you guys. I am terrible at that. Like that
Well,
is.
I was at first. I was the first, and then I was like, "Oh no, I'm taking too long to reply to people." So I'm trying to make it a daily habit now to check in.
Oh,
But it's so great hearing back from people and hearing their feedback, and yeah, it's just really lovely.
I think we've got Alicia Gee, one of our, bless her heart, Alicia, and I mean that not in the Southern way, but she's
Yeah.
literally was our guinea pig. I met her over YouTube, and she does my classes on Zoom a lot here in Atlanta. And so I thought, you know what? She's used to this. So I sent her all the workout videos before we loaded them for her to like, she kind of like beta tested. So, so Alicia Gee, I think we're going to interview her about her journey,
Yes.
into this and what, because it's, I can talk about my stuff all the time. Paula can as well, but to have our community members tell their stories too,
Yeah, from their perspective. Yeah,
especially for
really
Alicia, because she's at home, she's doing everything online, and so it's easy for me who's had a teacher, or like a real person teacher, to develop discipline. But for people who are only doing this at home, to develop that discipline is quite commendable. So because you're only being accountable to you, and that sometimes is the hardest thing when you're beginning. And so I applaud you guys for that. So anything else you want to end with, Paula, before we sign out for the evening?
No, just yeah, really excited. If you're interested, check out our website. There's no pressure. There's just a 7-day free trial. If it's for you, great. If not, all good. But yeah, this is very, very exciting.
Did I say the price again? I'll say it. So you guys, until February 20th, 2025, we're in the soft launch. So you get tuition each month for only $25 a month. And if you sign up before the grand big launch in February, at the end of February, then you will be locked in at $25 a month. We're not going to up your tuition.
We're going to keep it at
That's
that
our
price. Yeah.
That's our way of thanking you for being a part of, because we needed that, right, Paula? Like the teaching is great.
Yeah. We've needed the feedback. There's been a few little hiccups with the website, so we're just trying to correct it. And yeah, so yeah,
That's what happens with technology. So that's why we did a soft launch, and you guys helped us with that to figure out like what was it translating well, or where the little glitches were in the website. So we're gonna honor that. In February 20th, it'll go up to $40 a month for everybody else. So yeah, you guys, thank you so much. And Paula, thanks for bringing all this to me. I feel like this is just life changing. And let's just put it out there, Paula. Let's just put it out there. We're hoping that this gets big enough where we can like go around the world and do retreats. That's what we're hoping.
We're really excited. We really want to do some retreats and work with you guys like one-on-one in person. This would just be so exciting. And my 2 older daughters have even offered to come along to be the helpers.
Well, I wanted to do that in Appalachia. I was planning on it, and it was going to be the fall of 2024. And then around like the spring of 2024, I got this feeling in my gut not to do it. And I thought it had to do with the competition. We'll say the competition that was coming up. There was going to be, but what ended up happening was Helene. And that was the area, the exact area that we would have been at the exact time. So that's all he says, as our friend Tamara says, she's going to be on our academy too, guys. Listen to your gut, because my gut was like, I'm so glad, because I would have had people from all over the world that when that happened. So, you know, but I think too, something bigger was coming, and that was the Esoteric Academy. We do want to do like global retreats where we go to different places and around the world.
We
And
would love to do that.
yeah, I would love that so much. So anyway, you guys, yeah, I guess that's it. I'll let you go to bed now.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.